Point After Podcast with your host, Julian Barnett.
Hello and welcome to the Point After Podcast. Once again, our fearless leader, Julian Barnett, is not here once again. Must be growing out his beard or something, but on a more serious note, they are moving across town, so they're moving, so he's out once again. So I'm in the hosting shoes. I am Coach Craig Sport. I'm joined by two very special guests with me. Unfortunately, we were planning on having Nate Williams here with us as well. He was not able to be here, but you're really in our thoughts and prayers. You had a rough couple days, so we definitely understand. So we do have a special fill-in for him, and that is Mr. Nastic. So just tell us about yourself, where the people can find you.
Oh, man, thanks a lot. You can find me live streaming on Tuesdays with my man Connor Donald on the Gold Jacket podcast. You can find me also on Twitter at Gold Jacket QBs, dropping a lot of nonsense and sometimes some knowledgeable informational takes on Sundays. You should be watching out for me Sundays. That's probably when I drop my best shit.
Yeah. And then our other guest is going to be Mr. Bo McBigTime himself, the king of spice, spicy takes, everything like that. So just welcome aboard, Bo, and let the people know where they can find you and what all you're working on.
I'm the DFS guy for ballblastfootball.com. I'm also the cash game writer, the huge picture for the Clash of the Beards and Bellies on NimblewNumbers.com. You can find me at Bo_McBigTime on Twitter. That's where I pretty much post everything. I also have a line of food products at BigTimeFlavor.co, so go ahead and check it out. Get yourself some Hot Box Gourmet hot sauce and some seasoning blends that'll pretty much kick up all your food up to its highest level. I've been making your mother-in-law's cooking palatable for about a year and a half now.
So we're going to get through pretty much everything we typically do. We're going to run through some injuries, rapid fire, a little bit of reactions to them, and then get into Monkey Knife Fight, do a touchdown dance, which is Jim's specialty over here. If you haven't been following him on Twitter, start doing it because he's making you money almost every single time on that touchdown dance. And then we're going to take a look at the Sunday night and the Monday night football slates over on DraftKings as well. But we're going to start off with these injuries. I have a shorter list this week, actually. So a couple guys returning. We got Lane Johnson's going to be, or he should be back for the Eagles this week, the right tackle. Traquan Smith is back. He's been activated off IR. Their kicker, Will Lutz, is too, if you really care about that. Rashad Penny is expected to be activated off the IR before the Monday Night Football game. Kind of going off of that one too. Alex Collins really hasn't practiced all week, but they say he's going to play on Monday Night Football. So I'm going to open this one up to you guys just a little bit too. How do you feel about this Seattle Seahawks running back situation? And is there anyone to trust given, the health of Alex Collins, Penny coming back, got DJ Dallas around there too as well?
Man, I'm excited to see. I don't really believe Collins is going to be a go. Do you think he's actually going to be a go? Like I don't personally. Anyway, I'm really excited to see if they give an optimal workload to Rashad Penny and see what he can really do. I know he was hampered with injuries coming in. They spent a good pedigree on him. Hearing from Edwin last week that maybe there was some friction with the draft pick between the ownership and the coaching staff, so that might have put him behind a little bit. But the talent was there, so I'm excited to see it. Right, you got Geno Smith, so I'm expecting a little bit more run game leaning on it, and I hope they just don't go with a three-headed back situation with Travis Homer and DJ Dallas getting in there. So the draft pedigree screams that it should be Rashad Penny to start. So I'm excited to see it, but I don't trust it.
Yeah, I gotta agree. especially if Collins does play. Then you're looking at a four-headed backfield with those guys, and none of them are really that good at catching the ball. They've kind of leaned on Homer and Dallas for that role. Penny provides more versatility, but we just don't know if he's going to be able to bring it consistently because he's been hurt every single year that he's been in the league. And it was a very questionable first-round pick that the Seahawks made a couple of years ago. And it should be contested between coaching and management. If you're thinking about taking a non-generational talent at running back in the first round, that's a mistake pick. I'd be understanding if the Seahawks brass and the Seahawks fans are upset about that because it's set their franchise back quite a bit, wasting such a valuable pick on a running back who really isn't great to begin with, and then he hasn't been able to stay healthy. So this running back, this backfield is a full avoid for me, even though they do love to run the ball up there.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely in agreement. I think there's a chance that Collins plays. They're saying it. I don't know if I actually believe it. So if you're out there in your redraft league, I wouldn't trust any of these guys either way. I wouldn't be counting on them, waiting for that last game to see what happens, especially since it is Monday Night Football as well. And the Rashad Penny thing is really weird with his calf injury because like a week 2, they're like, oh, he's going to go on IR. And then they just didn't put him on IR for like another 2 weeks. It was like the weirdest. They have not handled injuries very well there either. The concussion that Dwayne Eskridge or D. Eskridge, however you want to refer to him now, he was the exact same way. They just waited to put him on IR for forever too. So I'm not sure exactly what they're doing up there in Seattle at this point in time. We'll get moved over to some other injuries. Tyler Croft's out again with the back injury. Ryan Griffin's going to start. Doesn't really make an impact there. Devontae Parker, limited practice all week. He is questionable, but I do expect him to go this week. T.Y. Hilton, he's going to be out. He's obviously a part of that Colts game that we're going to be talking about later today. Trey Lance is out for this game with a knee injury. Jimmy Garoppolo is expected to be back from his calf injury. Any major takeaways from that one?
Bo, you want to take this start?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I like the Jimmy Garoppolo starting. I mean, I think that he's a terrible NFL quarterback and probably be on his way out this year. Probably by the end of the season, I think they're going to move him. But with Trey Lance spraining his knee, it really gives him another shot to audition and build some value for that franchise so they can move him for equity. They have a pretty decent matchup against the Colts defense this week, but it's going to be a slog. I live in this area. I live in California, and we're expecting multiple inches of rain tonight and tomorrow. So tomorrow night, the field is going to be in really bad shape. So I expect the Shanahan running game to get a lot of work here, especially with a quarterback back there that really has been just a walking injury bug his entire career, and especially the last 2 years. Jimmy G playing is a good thing for the 49ers for now, but it's also it's going to be rough on him tomorrow night in particular.
Yeah, I like that. I would also scream to say that I'm not the firm believer that Kyle Shanahan is probably as good as an NFL coach as people think he is.
Thank you. I feel like I'm alone there because I think he's a fake sharp. I think nobody gets more accolades for still being under 500 career as a head coach and also blowing multiple Super Bowls now with his play calling. And it just seems like his dad's last name has gone so far, and now we're finally starting to see that pristine image start to crack because they're not winning games as much as that we thought this genius would.
And this is what's really sad about this situation is I think this situation with Trey Lance being out and Jimmy G having to start is going to be the scapegoat for him lasting another season when he can look back and go, look at my track record when I finally had a fully healthy quarterback. I was 13-3. Look at all these other years when I had quarterbacks that went down. I went 6-10. I went 4-12. And it was just mediocrity because I'd be looking at the fact that Bill Belichick has had multiple quarterbacks go down, and he went 13-3 with those quarterbacks. He went 12-4 with Brian Hoyer. He went 13-3 with Matt Castle. What is Kyle Shanahan's problem? I have no idea. Like, you either can't draft well enough to have a competent backup quarterback. So this, to me, shouldn't really scream his salvation, because it's a starter that you still had in Jimmy G. So, but this is going to be his scapegoat on saying, I didn't have another healthy quarterback. I don't think he's as good. From a fantasy aspect, I think it's good that Trey Lance isn't even playing. I was screaming at the table saying he shouldn't be starting to begin with. If you do think he's the face of the franchise, sit behind closed doors and build an offense around him, and maybe test it out week 16, week 17, just like the Chiefs did with Pat Mahomes. Very similar style with this Jimmy G, Alex Smith, more like a Walmart version of Alex Smith there with Jimmy G, but that would have been the way I think it could go. So, like, from a fantasy standpoint, I think this is actually pretty good that Trey Lance is out. So maybe it doesn't force him into other situations. And from a real life standpoint, I think it's pretty shitty, because Kyle Shanahan is probably going to survive another season as a head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, when I think that there's dudes that live on my block that could coach that team better.
Definitely. And it sounds like there's rumors that he's actually on the hot seat. We'll see if that actually transpires to anything. I kind of want to see with Jimmy coming off this calf injury too, because last year when we seen him come back from the ankle injury, when he was in the pocket, like, he was just not comfortable. He had no pocket presence at all. It was just really bad, and you could tell it was really affecting him. Not that his pocket presence was the greatest in the world to start with, but it was terrible when he was trying to play with that ankle last year. And then you add in the conditions of the game that you already talked about, Bo, and it could not be pretty for him. We'll just have to see, though. We'll get moved over to the next one. And this is probably one of the weirdest injuries and timelines all week. It's Julio Jones. So Adam Schefter, I think it was it was Tuesday, supposedly reported that Julio Jones was going to be out this week. Didn't practice on Wednesday. Ended up limited in practice the past 2 days. He's listed as questionable. He says he feels good, but supposedly if he plays, he's going to be on a snap count. It's probably one of the weirdest timelines I've seen in a while, though. Definitely. So I don't know if you guys have any special opinions about this one or not.
We'll fire up AJ Brown. I mean, that's for sure. You just hope it's going to be a big AJ Brown game there. I don't think you can really expect a 3-touchdown game performance from Derrick Henry again. But I mean, I don't doubt the man either. But from a passing standpoint, I mean, who else is it really going to be?
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate that Julio's hamstrings tightened up the last couple of games, because AJ Brown's starting to finally round into form. He's off his Chipotle plan. So I'm looking forward to this being a high-scoring game regardless, because I think Derrick Henry is the type of guy that can put up 3 or 4 touchdowns on this Chiefs defense that can't stop anybody. So, yeah, A.J. Brown's going to be important, but I don't expect him to play very much, if at all.
Yeah, from what it sounded like is he might play just kind of limited snaps here and there, probably more of a decoy than anything. But it's important to note they are down a couple other wide receivers too. Chester Rogers that play in the slot, he's out this game. Cameron Batson, the little 5'8" gadget player, kick returner, he's on IR now too. So you got guys like Nick Westbrook-Akina, who's not very good, Josh Reynolds, and Marcus Johnson. Apparently they love Marcus Johnson for whatever reason. He's been kind of one of them guys that's more of an athlete and never transformed into anything else. But without going too far down that rabbit hole, let's see. So we got Tyreek Hill is up next. He was limited in practice on Friday. He's questionable. I do assume he plays. Don't really have too much worries there. Latavius Murray is out with an ankle sprain. At one point in time, it sounded like this was a high ankle sprain. Do you want to touch anyone in this Ravens backfield this week?
In a season-long league that I'm in, I have a claim in for Tyson Williams. I'm not going to start him, but this could be the chance that gets him back into fantasy graces. I mean, last week, I think it was Chris Berman that ended up saying it. He goes, they looked back at the 2015 rushing leaders, and he said, hey, I like that guy. It was Devontae Freeman scores a touchdown for him. Laddie Murray, and then Le'Veon Bell, right? Like, he went back old school. So, like, I don't think really we're going to be relying on Devontae Freeman and Le'Veon Bell as fantasy options. But Tyson Williams has already been able to show that he can handle a load when called upon. So this could be the crack. in the door, because I was off him as soon as they signed Laddie Murray. I said, like, Laddie Murray, it's a matter of 2 weeks before he takes that job away from him. He's a better prospect. He's a better runner. He's just been stuck behind shitty situations his entire life. But this could be the crack that gets Tyson Williams back, because I know coaches like hot hands, and if he gets in there and ends up, running 15, 16 times for the Ravens and doing quite well, he might never look back on this job. But not starting him this week, but I do have claims in for him this week.
Yeah, this is another of those messy backfields that I don't want any part of. When it comes to running backs, I like stability. I like upside with wide receivers, and I don't really care if they're third or fourth in the pecking order if it's an exciting enough offense. But for running backs, I want stability, and I want at least some semblance that they're a heavy workload. That means I'm completely out of this backfield. I'm completely out of San Francisco, New England usually, just because it's crowded. I can't predict from week to week which guy I can count on to get even enough touches to be relevant. For Baltimore, they obviously run the ball extremely well, but it's Lamar Jackson that does the job. Just because we had 1 week sample last week where all three of the running backs scored touchdowns, but Lamar didn't, we shouldn't let that dictate how we make choices on this team, because almost every week it's going to be Lamar Jackson that is the main rushing focal point of the team. And I'd rather bank on that than try to pick and choose between Tyson Williams, Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Freeman, Latavius Murray. I just want to throw open my mouth naming those names in the year 21 right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the Chris Berman one you were talking about over there, Jim, I think it was like the Pro Bowl in like 2016 or something like that. He's like, yeah. Guys, but it's not pretty. I think you guys are right. I don't think there's anybody you can really trust in this backfield. More of a bump up to Lamar Jackson. And, even though all those running backs got touchdowns last week, Lamar Jackson, he gets a bunch of carries. He just doesn't get the carries inside the 5-yard line. That's the only thing. So if you get inside the 5, the running back's going to get a touchdown. But if you get it from the 18, Lamar's still going to get the touchdown, or he's going to get the carry, and he might end up with the touchdown. Then it kills your running back value overall.
My only point is, like, this year, like, I'm going to be taking chances, especially on season long. I like to load up too, like RB heavy, because of the RB apocalypse that seems to be hitting you in 2021. Like this year, now you had listen, I was wrong on the Gold Jacket podcast when I said I'm be honest with you. I don't think Dearness is going to do anything, because clearly he made me eat my words. But like, you had Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, CMC, Barkley, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, CEH. Like, I've just named 7 guys, not even thinking about it. Like, this is why I want to take the chance, even if it's only 1 week that gets me the money and then I can trade him. It's still bringing me value. Like, it's hard to find starting running backs. And if you can take a shot on the waiver wire and get a guy that ends up being a starting running back, a la like James Robinson last year, how many guys picked him up off of the waivers? Some smart cats were picking him up in the last rounds of their startups or rookie drafts, but a lot of guys were picked him up like week 2, week 3. And like, he already did shit by the time you picked him up. Like, I couldn't believe it in some leagues. Like, but anyway, like, I'm never gonna leave a potential starting running back on the wire if I can get him, especially for the right price.
Mm-hmm. And even if you can pick up guys ahead of time, kind of like that fantasy league that we're in together, I picked up both Dearness and Demetric Felton last week, and I turned around and I traded Demetric Felton away. I'm like, because I didn't believe he was going to do that much in the game anyway. So I'm like, here, you can trade him. I get something for him, and he's kind of a landmine for you too, because you're going to end up starting him. But so sometimes you can do that too. Or you just get that right week and you have that guy that's the guy for a week that's going to get 15 carries. You take him and like your wide receiver 3 and you upgrade it to wide receiver 2. You're already helping your team out right there. Then next up was Antonio Gibson. Didn't practice on Wednesday. It was limited practice Thursday and Friday. He's still dealing with that shin injury. This is something that's never going to go away pretty much all year. Expect him to play. Expect, him to be limited once again. Maybe one of these weeks they're just going to rest him. It's probably going to be closer to their bye week, whenever that is. But this is something that's not going to go away for the rest of the year. Did you guys talk with Edwin about this, Jim?
Yeah, we talked about it. And the long story short is Edwin was probably, if you're a conservative owner, moving off of Gibson, because this is something that's going to be long-term throughout the season, probably maybe require surgery. I think he said that at the end of the season, but I'm not 100% on that. Don't quote me. I smoke a lot of J's. But yeah, this was definitely something that he, as a conservative owner, was trying to get off. He says it's probably a hot take or not on the majority, but yeah, if he can get off and get something of equal value, maybe a little bit more return, like, because he says this is going to be something that's going to continually be there all season, and there's a reason why JD McKissic is probably as involved as he is.
Yeah, I agree. Don't think it's going to require surgery, but it's going to require an amount of rest that the NFL season just won't allow the football team to go after with Gibson if they want him to play. And it's more of a intolerance thing. So it's not something that's going to just heal it unless he's just completely off of that leg. And they're not going to let him do that if he can play and not make it worse by playing. It's just pain tolerance. And so they're not going to practice a whole lot. And he's going to be just about the same as what he is without the injury. It's just pain tolerance. And you saw he took a shot last week and came out for a series too. I can't imagine playing football through shin splints or a similar injury because it is extremely painful. So I'm not as conservative as Edwin might be. I do like to get aggressive, especially on guys with talent with very solid roles on that team. I'm just kind of maybe moderating my expectations of how many touches he'll get, knowing that he's playing through it and they do have a valuable backup that can pretty much do all the things that they want Gibson to do if he's out.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, with like Antonio Gibson, is one of those things, like if you're going to trade him away, just wait kind of till he has like that touchdown week or like a big play week, so you can just kind of maximize your value. Hey, look, we got a buddy in here. It's Mr. Dan Brown saying hello. So
my concern too with Gibson is like, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm taking shots at that shin. Like I'm going after him a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm not hitting him high as much as I can. I'm hitting him low if I can. So like, I don't know, like I'm not trading him away, especially like dynasty asset. Like I like him. He's a hold for me. So I'm not really concerned about it. Season long, I'll be a little bit concerned because I think you're going to end up missing him for at least 2 games at some point during the season. I just hope it's not like near the end during a playoff push or like week 1 of the playoffs where I end up needing him.
So I'll just say real quick on that note too, that this is the thing. If Washington's bad enough where they're not competitive, he's probably just going to get shut down at the end of the year, because what's the point of running him out there and he breaks his leg? Then, it just adds more risk to the whole thing. So if, I don't even remember what their record is right now, but say they're like 5-9, they're not going to run them out there at that point.
Yeah, they're 2-4, so they're in danger. So a couple more losses, they could be out of it. And you just never know what their motivation might be to keep him on the field.
Dan said, whoop, I missed that there. Dan says, always sell, never low. Then we're going to talk about his teammate.
Dan Brown.
We're going to talk about his teammate real quick. This is one that we probably don't have to go into very much, is Curtis Samuel. He's out once again. Still dealing with that groin problem. I'm not sure if you guys talked with Edwin about this at all, Jim, but supposedly he had like a grade 2 groin strain before that, and he re-injured it. The only reason he's not on IR is because he's already been on IR, and if you put him on, then he's just done for the year. So you might as well keep him on the active roster at this point in time if you think he has any value at all.
I don't think we talked about him because, let's be honest with you, I don't like Curtis Samuel. I don't think he's a very fantasy relevant player. People got hyped up because of the CMC injury, and there's just not. Hey, listen, man, like this is a guy that has not done anything for you ever for 4 years, and then popped for a couple games for you, and now everyone's hyping him up. Like, he was a guy that I was selling on the end of last year, and the new candidate for 2021 that I'm selling, that is the new Curtis Samuel, was Cordell Patterson, because that motherfucker hasn't done anything for you for 9 years. Now he's popping off, and people are going to give me 2nd round picks. You damn right I'm going to take them.
Take them all. Take them all. I completely agree with you there, except for I was the dumbass who literally built my entire DFS lineup around that one big week Samuel had last year, and I got crushed for it because I pretty much a DK lineup was blank except Curtis Samuel was filled in, and I said now what? And everybody was like delete it and start over, and he ended up going for like 27 points at $4,000. So I look like a genius for a week thanks to Curtis Samuel. But other than that, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's for sure. And the next one we got is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Rob Gronkowski out once again, so no real changes there. And then Antonio Brown out with an ankle injury this week. So we're going to see a little bit more of Tyler Johnson. We might see a little bit more 2 tight end sets as well. They do like to use Cameron Brate in the slot and out wide some too. So I think he has a little bit of a bump up. I know everybody loves OJ Howard, but he plays more in line too. So I don't know if there's anything else relevant to say about this, but that's up to you guys.
No,
Chris
I'm sad
Godwin
about
season,
Antonio.
baby. Chris
I'm sad
Godwin
about
season.
Antonio. I think that's going to be a chalky play in DFS now, right? Godwin,
yeah.
but I don't.
Super.
I like
Chalky
Braid.
is-
You like Braid. I think he's sneaky.
Give me Howard all day. Brate's just
Give me the guy with the Harvard IQ.
that's true.
That's what I said earlier. Then we got all the Giants once again. So we got Saquon Barkley, Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney all out this week. So pretty much what we saw last week out of the Giants. You're gonna get a lot of Sterling Shepard, not a lot of much else. A little bit of Devontae Booker too. This is a hit or miss matchup for running the ball at least. Carolina Panthers have been pretty good against some teams, and then a guy named Ezekiel Elliott ran for 143 yards all over their face too. So just really depends on the week.
Also depends apparently on the talent of that running back.
Yeah.
They help.
But watch out for Dante Pettis again. He had 11 targets last week. He's a good enough athlete where he might not be limited to a bunch of really off-target targets from Daniel Jones this week. It's kind of a little looser of a matchup for somebody like Pettis who can make plays. And especially with Shepard is probably going to get banged up before this game's over anyway. He's a game time decision himself. It might just be Dante and Johnson and just a whole bunch of crap for Daniel Jones to throw to. So I'm going to be sneaking in some Dante Pettis into my DFS lineups at the min price 3,000 on DraftKings. He even made my Clash of the Beards and Bellies lineup against Scott this weekend. So I'm looking just for a little splash play at the min price. And 11 targets is nothing to shake a stick at, especially when even if he only put in 5 catches on those 11 targets because Daniel Jones sucks.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And I think John Ross has a hamstring injury too, so who knows if he even plays. But they keep trying to force him deep anyways, so we'll see what ends up happening with that. And then the last guy of note on this list was Terrace Marshall. He has a concussion. He's not going to play this week. He's been really hit or miss this year anyways. A couple extra targets to go around, but nothing else that you can really say about that. Maybe if Robbie Anderson catches the ball, he'll be relevant this week, but who knows if that's going to happen at this point in time.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm out on Terrace Marshall.
I love Terrace. I want him to stay healthy, and I want him to get a chance. They really haven't even looked his way this year. And for what he showed in the preseason with athleticism and big play, I mean, I don't know why I'm just trying to force feed Robbie Anderson. He's looked terrible. Robbie Anderson looks so bad out there. You can't imagine that a guy that lit the preseason up like Terrace Marshall did is going to play any worse than Robbie Anderson has this year.
Is that one of the worst contract extensions now, just looking back for the money that they gave him? And then it's like, are you just not going to give DJ Moore a contract extension or something? It's just like, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like when it first happened still, and it looks even worse now.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I think they regret it.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna get moved over to our monkey knife fight, the touchdown dance. Let's see. I'm gonna play the ad read real quick for monkey knife fight.
If you want the best DFS player prop games in the industry, jump onto Monkey Knife Fight. Monkey Knife Fight is sweeping the nation right now, and we at True North are proud to be doing it along with them. They've got games for all sports and skill levels that are sure to keep you on the edge of your seat, with endless opportunity to watch your winnings pile up. With our promo code TNFF, Monkey Knife Fight will match your first deposit up to $50. So sign up now with our promo code and you can get up to $50 of free money to start making some bank. Again, that's monkeyknifefight.com, and the promo code is TNFF at your first deposit to start playing today.
All right. So the touchdown dance that we're going to do is actually the afternoon slate. I didn't have it brought up right here, but we'll talk about it real quick. This is the Houston Texans, the Arizona Cardinals, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Las Vegas Raiders, Los Angeles Rams, Detroit Lions, the Chicago Bears, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we'll start with you, Jim. Who is one player that you like for the touchdown dance on this afternoon slate in general?
Okay. Man, I like Cooper Kupp. I like Cooper Kupp with Matt Stafford going back to Detroit. I think he is going to put up ungodly numbers on Detroit as a little fuck you for breaking my back and never giving me nothing in return. But yeah, I expect Cooper to definitely see some paint on Sunday.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know about the revenge narrative so much for Stafford, but it's definitely real for DeAndre Hopkins against Houston. And I bet you $1 million he's been in Cliff Kingsbury's ear and Kyler Murray's ear all week long saying, give me 25 targets this week. I want to put up some massive numbers against my old team that basically gave him away because, I mean, it really looks like it was a lot of racism and then a little bit of this we don't want here when it came down to Houston giving away DeAndre Hopkins for a second rounder and David Johnson. So I think that revenge game for me gives me a lot of the Eagles haven't really given Nuke the same target share that he's had the last couple of years. But I think this week is going to be one week where we might see a whole heck of a ton of DeAndre Hopkins with multiple touchdowns. So I love Hopkins this week in a touchdown dance.
Yeah, he's another one that I did like a lot too. And as a Texans fan, that trade really hurt. And the worst part is they used that freaking second round pick on Ross Blacklock. So my dad was texting me, my dad texted me during that draft. He's like, who do you think the Texans take here? I'm like, Ross Blacklock, just because I hate him. And it literally was the pick like 2 seconds later. I'm like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jack Easterby, idiot.
Yeah, thank you, freaking Bill O'Brien. But his Blacklock, the most notable thing he did during his rookie year is he got ejected for throwing a punch. That's the only thing he was like. They signed some defensive tackle off the street, and he played twice as many snaps as him. Like not even knowing the play, not even like knowing the playbook, just coming off the street. And then this year they have Roy Lopez, who was like a 6th round pick out of Arizona. And that's looking like a pretty good pick now, but he's playing ahead of him too. So it's just like you just complete waste of a 2nd round pick. So you got David Johnson and a guy that's just eating up space on your roster essentially. So it's not going to get much better there. And so I think DeAndre Hopkins is definitely in play. I do like Darrell Henderson as well. He's been tearing it up lately, and the Lions cannot stop the run to save their life. It's not pretty. Whoever thought Alex Alizoni being a Mike linebacker for your defense was a good idea. That's a terrible. He might be one of the worst run stuffing linebackers in the entire league too. Like he's okay in coverage, Clay Matthews look like and everything like that, but having him as your Mike linebacker, that was a terrible idea. So I think Henderson's a great
hair.
And then Sony Michel might not actually end up playing in this game too. So it might just be Darrell Henderson and then freaking Buddy Howell coming up because Jake Funk's on IR too. So he's going to get as much as he can take this week.
Oh boy.
So would you guys be comfortable? Are you guys comfortable going with Cooper Kupp, Darrell Henderson, and DeAndre Hopkins then?
Yeah, I would be. I would also throw the devil's advocate just as the guy, and I would suggest doing just the Rams and Lions slate, because for the same end game, you only need 2 tutties between your 3 guys, where this one you're essentially either asking one guy to get in twice and one other of the guys to get in once, or all of your guys to get into the paint, because it's a 2.5 touchdown rate. But that's just me, only because we've both selected 2 Rams players, and it's very easy to throw an arbitrary Detroit Lion in there. Jamal Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. If you think DeAndre Swift is good to go, DeAndre Swift, and it's only 2 touchdowns. Now, that's just me throwing devil's advocate to you, because we've selected 2 LA Rams players. But yeah, I think if you're going to select for the full afternoon slate, that it's definitely a good slate to go with.
Yeah, I like the Lions idea because you are keeping it in-house. And I don't think the Rams defense is as dominant as it has been. So you're going to see some garbage time mop up. I don't think the Lions are going to be shut out by the Rams by much. But having Swift there, who's pretty much been as good as any running back in the league, very quietly on a winless team. Yeah, give me Swift in that run back scenario. But full slate, you have so many choices. But like you said, it's almost too wide open to where you're kind of seeing where the other touchdowns are going to come from, and you can kind of read the single game narrative a little easier. It's clearer.
Yeah. I'll just throw one other guy out there too that I like a lot this weekend is TJ Hawkinson. Those Ram linebackers, they're garbage. Kenny Young, Troy Reader.
But that's my point. You can throw in any Detroit Lion in that line. If you're confident that Darrell Henderson and Cooper Kupp are going to score, which I'm pretty confident that Cooper Kupp, and I can definitely see Darrell Henderson getting in, the TJ Hawkinson, the Amon-Ra, the DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, it's whoever you want to put in, that's a freebie play. That's if they get in, beautiful. But that's just my thought process and my philosophy on it. I don't try to chase the larger touchdown rate. That's just me. Especially if, like, in the afternoon slate, I'm already naturally putting 2 guys from one team in there, then that's me. That's me talking through it.
Would you try to play the Cardinals Texans game at all then too, Jim, with like DeAndre Hopkins, maybe like a James Conner type in there?
Actually, yes, I would, because this is a sneaky thing with James Conner, man. He gets a lot of looks inside the 5 and he converts them. He might not have been able to be the guy with the full workload and stay 100% healthy to win, 250, 275 touches, but you give this guy straight banging touches with 5, 4, 3 yards out. And I think he's got 4 or 5 of them inside the 5 for 3 touchdowns. I don't have the stats up really quick, but I remember looking at it a couple weeks ago, or 2, like last week. And like, he is sneaky efficient when it comes to it. It's not Chase Edmonds season in that area of the field. When they get there, it is James Conner. So yeah, I would feel comfortable with that, throwing that slate in, because again, that's a 1.5 touchdown line. And I'm very confident that DeAndre Hopkins is going to get in from really anywhere, but like 12 yards and out. I feel like he can get in, and then like 10 and under, that's James Conner's bread and butter, man.
James Conner's range is 1 yard and in.
Hey, inside the 5 yard line, he is money. So
aren't all 5 of his touchdowns from 1 yard out?
Hey, that's fine. That's just because that's where they end up starting to get him, because guys fall down.
That's the only thing that'll be within his yards per carry. The dude is terrible. And so if he's a big body, he's a big body that can lean forward and get a yard. So, but I love the Conner pick, because they are in that goal line situation a lot, because they run so many plays. I mean, they're going to be in all sorts of situations more than other teams per game because of how fast they run, how many plays they run. So I love all the Cardinals because they're going to score points, and that might be the biggest blowout on the slate.
Yep.
Yeah, so even for that situation, I'd be more aligned to do that, throw 2 single line games of the Rams and Lions game, and then double, because then also what people need to know is you're getting 2 shots at that $5,000 for the touchdown dance, right? Now you're getting 2 chances in there, especially if they both hit. So, that's just me, especially like that, not every week, but that's a good week, right? Like that's 2 games right there where you can see definitive paths to at least 2 touchdowns being scored between those 3 guys. And then, like I said, you can pick whoever arbitrage Houston Texans player you want to pick in there, who Davis Mills is going to be throwing fucking tutties to. How many is he going to get, Craig? 5?
Well, if you take a couple of these weeks this year, it's going to be a big old fat 0.
Yeah. Brandon Cooks is your biggest threat, but it's just whether or not Davis Mills has time to get rid of the ball against this Arizona pass rush, because that Arizona's going to stop the run because the Texans have a bunch of corpses back there, and then you're going to have Brandon Cooks running routes and getting open, and Davis Mills trying to get the ball to him as much as he can because he's really the only playmaker on the team. But Mills is going to be under duress this whole game. It's going to come down to, can he get rid of the ball in time to get it to Cooks as much as he can? And some of the games we've seen him be successful at that, like the New England game, he was successful getting it to just about everybody down the field, which was shocking because the Patriots defense is pretty decent. But last week, it was just it was Cooks or it was nobody.
Definitely. And I think, too, is just that offensive line. They looked halfway decent when Marcus Cannon was able to play, but then he messed up his back. He's done for the year. And they got Charlie frickin' Heck starting at right tackle. No offense, but he's not good at all.
He's not Laramie Tunsil, that's for sure.
Well, and if people don't know, Charlie Heck, his dad, Andy Heck, played in the NFL for 12 years, and he was actually a pretty good starting left tackle. And he's actually the Chiefs offensive line coach for the past, it's been a while actually. So maybe he got drafted just based on his dad. I don't even know, but 6'8", 315 pounds, can't move his feet, has no, they're like, oh, he's the most improved player this year. Well, you went from being terrible to being a below average backup, but you have to start now. But I'll just mention that Chandler Jones is now on the COVID list, or he's still on the COVID list. He's not expected to play tomorrow, at least. So that kills a little bit of the pass rush off, but not. But I mean, there's still J.J. Watt. There's still Marcus Golden, who's okay at pass rushing sometimes. But we'll get moved over to the single game slate. We'll start off with the Sunday night football slate, which is between the Indianapolis Colts. Crap. This is basketball. Disregard that one. But
I like between the Indianapolis Colts.
So it's between the Indianapolis Colts and the San Francisco 49ers. So I assume
in the torrential downpour.
This real quick.
So this will be a weather game, guys. So I'm glad we got to this portion of the show where I can actually flex my showdown muscles here. Being a Northern California guy who likes showdown slate, I'm licking my chops for this game. The 49ers are I think they're kind of fraudulent this year. They're not well coached. Their roster's pretty good, but they're kind of banged up in some pretty key areas. The difference is going to be, can they run on the Colts? If they can, they're going to win. If they can't, they're going to lose. And because I think the Colts are going to be able to run the ball in this 49ers defense. Their offensive line is dominant even without Quentin Nelson. And JT is a monster. That guy, if he gets enough touches, there is no stopping JT.
Yeah, and he was another guy. He kind of got off to that slow start once again this year, but now he's really starting to take off. We're really starting to see it again. It's important to note that Javon Kinlaw, the defensive tackle for the 49ers, is missing this week as well. So we'll start off with the captain pick. Who do you like, Bo?
I'd like the Colts defense or JT. JT is going to be your popular choice. So cash games, smaller tournaments, I'm gonna hammer JT in the captain spot. For larger slates, I'm going to go Colts defense or even Rodrigo Blankenship, because in the rain, it doesn't affect the kickers as much as if it's windy. It won't be windy tomorrow. It's just going to be really, really wet. I can see Blankenship having a pretty good game, especially if they're having trouble punching the ball into the end zone. you might see a lot of slip and slide type field goals, even short field goals, a bunch of those, and it adds up, and you get a 12 or 15 point output from your kicker in the captain spot, and you can afford all those studs that might break out. I like that play in a larger field tournament.
So I'll say one thing just real quick. Blankenship's actually on IR, so it's Michael Badgley. Would you still feel the same way with him as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Rodrigo had the hip injury, right? So that makes sense. I wasn't privy to that, but I was about to look at it. So thank you for saving me the research. So I do like Badgley. I think that the Chargers regret that drop because Vizcaíno's been awful. Badgley wasn't bad except for in the preseason. Vizcaíno's been one of the worst kickers I've ever seen. So I think the Chargers really regret letting Badgley go because he was the money badger, and I think he still is, especially for a team that's going to probably kick a lot of field goals going forward.
So let's just try putting him in the captain spot first. So Badgley is here, and then you said you like Jonathan Taylor and the Colts defense too. Would you put both them in as well?
No, I'd probably go with one or the other in the captain spot for the low price guys. I'm going to look for short yardage receivers on both teams. So I need a Deebo Samuel. I need a Michael Pittman. It's going to come down to who can break the big yard after the catch play, where they're making moves and causing defenders to slip. That's what's going to make the difference in this game, are those big broken plays where it's going to be really hard to methodically move the ball down the field in this one.
Mm-hmm. And we'll go over to you too real quick, Jim. Who do you like in this game?
Well, Bo ended up touching on it. I do like Pittman would be the guy I'd be looking to. I'd be looking to probably do a 4-1 stack for the Colts on this one, and probably rolling like a Deebo or an Ayuk type wide receiver. But yeah, I'd be stacking 4 Colts if it was me. I'd probably be going like, I'm not really privy to DFS, so like I wouldn't do the kicker in the captain spot, but don't listen to me because I don't win that much. But I would. I'm a big 4-1 guy. If I do it, I try to stack heavy on one side. So it makes sense with the kicking though. Yeah.
I also like an alternate captain pick of Elijah Mitchell because I think he's got big play potential. And he will have some volume in this game. I'm not sure about if he doesn't break a long run, he might not get very much at all in the way of points, but he's a nice sneaky captain spot pick for a large field tournament like what most people do is the cheaper ones that don't risk much, really put $1 or $2 in and you can win $5,000 if you hit everybody.
Are you at all concerned with the possibility of Jermichael Hasty returning this Sunday?
To a degree, yes, but Hasty's more of a vulture type guy anyway. He's a pivot back, and he got a lot of run when Mitchell was banged up, and then when Sermon was a healthy scratch. So if anything, Hasty kills Sermon because I don't think Kyle likes him very much. Kyle does not like Trey Sermon, and he's shown it when he's had a choice to go with other backs over him. He's done it at every turn. So Hasty, I think, really affects Trey Sermon's upside. But Elijah Mitchell's going to still get more than a majority of the carries here.
And I think when Hasty was actually active this year, they kind of used him a little bit in pass protection too. So that probably affects the guy like use check a little bit more, who they've essentially used every passing down because he's the only guy they can trust in pass protection. They're not going to trust 2 rookies. And I said that was going to happen. I believe it was back when they played the Packers. So he was a guy that I threw in the lineup, and then he ended up getting that receiving touchdown, I believe it was. So
couldn't agree more. Hasty's a really versatile player. And he's held in very high regard with the team. So he will have a role. I'm not sure in his first game back if it'll be a big one.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't expect him too much, but if he gets, it's probably going to be more of that passing down role overall. So let's just try to build a lineup out here real quick. Do you want to go with Michael Badgley in the captain spot then?
I mean, what are we building for? A large field GPP, cash game, smaller tournament? Yeah. What are we looking at here?
So let's see. Just do like a large field GPP.
Okay. I'm okay with Badgley. I'm good with Mitchell or JT.
Mm-hmm. So you want to throw one of those two in the regular flex spot, right?
Yep.
So we'll throw Mitchell in to start with. Then I know we talked about Michael Pittman. We talked about Deebo Samuel. Which one would you like to go with there?
I mean, with the kicker and the captain, you can go with both of them.
Mm-hmm. So let's put both of them in, just see where we're at after that. Are you attracted to either quarterback in this matchup at all?
I don't trust Carson Wentz as far as I can throw him in a bad weather game. He's had some really good matchups, and he's going to be really chalky because he's coming off 2 big performances. But he's not in the dome anymore. He's playing a real defense this week. I think he might have a coming down to earth turn back into a pumpkin type game. So I'm kind of off him in this game. If anything, I might roll Jimmy G out there because they're not going to expect him to do much, and he's got a lot of talent that can run after the catch that make him look good on the stat sheet. I'm all for that.
Yeah, and I'll just say, too, with that kicker in the captain spot, maybe it pivots away a little bit from Carson Wentz, too, because probably not throwing as many touchdowns if you're getting the field goals as well.
Bingo. You got to work those narratives. That's what Showdown Slate's all about, is working the story, telling the story of how the game's going to go. And so if you're getting a stack with Deebo and Jimmy, you're getting the touchdown upside of Elijah Mitchell with the way he's going to be carrying the ball. And then, of course, you have the narrative that they're going to complete a lot of short passes to Pittman, but maybe they're not punching the ball in the end zone. So you have Badgley cleaning up the mess there.
Yep. And that's one of the things I always talk about, like when Julian and I first started doing this. It's like you always want to tell a story. And with Showdown slates, you can enter 20 max tournaments. You can enter like 150 max tournaments if you really want to in Showdown. That's a little bit weirder since there's only so many players you can play in so many different spots. But there's like 4 or 5 stories you can tell for any given Showdown slate, essentially. So I always tell people just get creative with it, because if you want to build a real good Showdown slate, either you got an optimizer, you run through it, you look at all the different lineups, you find the ones you like, or you hand build, and you probably spend like an hour and a half at least in just trying to
4 or 5. Like after I'm done with Chalk Block tonight, I'm gonna hand build my Sunday night lineups, and I usually don't get to bed till 2 or 3 in the morning on Saturdays, so because I'm building so much out, so I can write my Showdown Blasters article.
Yeah, definitely. And then, so in this situation, I believe we have $6,500 left over.
Not bad.
Where do you want to go from there?
So let's see. Who do we have available right at the top of that? Zach Pascal.
Zach Pascal,
$6,200. So, and what do you think about Nyheim Hines here? If we're not playing JT, we're playing that short passing narrative. What do you think about Hines in this spot? He's been pretty quiet the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'm nervous about him only because it doesn't seem like the Colts really are interested in featuring him. Seems like they're more interested in featuring a Marlon Mack to see what they can get with him when they're trying to spell JT. So I am a little worried about him going forward unless they somehow trade Marlon Mack to one of these running back starved teams. Because he did get looks like when Mac wasn't around or they didn't really want to use him. He was stealing touchdowns to my dismay on every lineup that I had JT in. But this week I'm not really trusting him. But again, I'm not the DFS guy to really really bounce these off.
I do appreciate your input there, because what you brought up is a good point. In a large field tournament, there's 2 ways we can go about this. We can go with Hines just because nobody's going to want him after he's done literally nothing the last 2 weeks. At the same time, you don't want a dud in there at $6,200. I think I'd almost rather go down to $5,200 and go with Mo Alley Cox, because he's been a touchdown threat. And so you have the short passing narrative. And let's say we say the Colts are going to score 2 touchdowns in this game. It's a very high likelihood that those could go to Pittman and or Ali Cox, the way that their passing game is running. And especially if we're saying dump off passes galore, I think they like the 6'4" Pittman and the 6'5" Allie Cox for a lot of those short yardage, move the chains type things that they're really going to be trying to do to keep the 49ers off the field.
Yeah, so we'll go with Mo Cox in this situation. And the only thing I'll say about him real quick is, yes, he gets a lot of high volume targets, but he doesn't run a lot of routes. If you kind of look at it, most weeks he's running like 9 routes when he's actually in there. So, but a lot of them come near the goal line. He's athletic enough to make somebody miss in the open field, break a tackle, and you might get an extra 20 yards on a run like that as well. So
that and touchdowns. I mean, sorry to interrupt, but tight ends on Showdown slate have been killing it this year. And it's just random stuff, but playing tight ends has been very profitable on Showdown slate this season. All the primetime games have featured tight ends scoring touchdowns. So maybe we keep on that narrative and ride it while it's hot.
Yeah. So got him for right now. And I was just going to go back to Nyheim Hines real quick. And I saw somebody tweet out, I can't remember who because it's been like a couple of weeks now, but in the games the Colts are like projected to lose or losing by at least 7.5 points, Nyheim Hines has like 13.3 points in PPR. In the games they're winning, he has like 5 points in PPR. So if you expect this to be a close game, probably not a Nyheim Hines game. But if you want to play a contrary, if you want to be a little bit contrarian, you want to tell a different story that, hey, the 49ers go up early on, maybe they're up by 10 points, maybe they're up by 2 touchdowns early on, then it turns into a little bit more of a Nyheim Hines narrative. Maybe in that case you throw in your Carson Wentz, maybe you throw in some of these other wide receivers as well.
Right. And I would say if it was in Indy inside the dome, we might be looking at that sort of game. But in the elements, especially with the weather report looking like it does, I'm kind of skeptical. I'm with Jim on that. I'm skeptical that this game's going to be quickly out of reach by the 49ers, especially when the Colts they're playing pretty well for their record.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to touch base one last time just on these cheaper guys. Is there anybody that really stands out in the cheap section for you in this game?
Well, I mean, I like the Jermichael Hasty, but again, that's just me. If I was trying to build a couple lines, I'd be throwing him in there as a vulture. But
I would be too. I can't wait till Jeff Wilson comes back because he's the ultimate vulture.
Oh, when Jeff Wilson goes, he's gonna make people lose their jobs. He's just gonna. Kyle Shanahan loves him.
I love him too.
He's a good player too, and there's a reason why Kyle loves Jeff Wilson, because that dude just scored. That's all he does is score touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's my thing. I picked him up in Dynasty everywhere, like startup drafts, not this year, but the year before, because I'm like, every time this guy plays, all he does is score touchdowns, and he catches, and they trust him to catch passes. They trust him in pass protection. It's like, why wouldn't you want this guy? Like, and the only reason he didn't actually get drafted in the NFL draft, like he was great at North Texas. He had a broken foot and he couldn't run at the combine. That's the only reason he didn't get drafted.
Exactly.
But
yep, I'm with you on that one. Down the board, I don't really like anybody. It's up to, it's maybe Jack Doyle, but it's really hard to sell me on those picks for this slate.
See, I think Jack Doyle at like $1,000, he can be in play just depending on the rest of your lineup.
Yeah,
there was actually a Showdown slate last year that the Colts had when I played, and Jack Doyle was just coming back from an injury, and he was just like randomly $200. I'm like, well, I'll throw him in, and he ends up scoring a touchdown. I got like 5th in that contest, but so he's there. You could look at some of these other Colts wide receivers without Paris Campbell and T.Y. Hilton. You got Ashton Doolin and Mike Scratchen, but they're probably not going to do anything. Maybe you get lucky and they have a couple, if they get 3 catches for like 30, 40 yards, maybe it helps your lineup out, but that's pretty much what you need out of them. They're like $600, $200. There's not really much towards the bottom here. I feel like this slate was actually pretty priced up in general.
Yeah, I mean, look how overpriced Zach Pascal is. That should tell you everything about this slate, is Zach Pascal's price being so high.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to go over to the Monday Night Football game real quick, and then we'll kind of talk about that one real quick as well. And I know this one is pretty priced up as well. For whatever reason, they priced everything up this week on Showdown slates.
They don't want to make it easy on us, do they? It just
some.
comes down to capturing touchdowns. When it's priced up like this and you have a bunch of guys at the very top and very bottom, it's basically just like capture all the touchdowns in your lineup build and you'll win. If you don't capture every single touchdown in the game, you're going to lose. So that's all I see it with when they do this. It depends on the matchups. We got two pretty messy matchups. They're not as clear. Like Buffalo, Tennessee was crystal clear. Like you could play it any way you wanted. And so they evened out the pricing for us. And they kind of just said, hey, whoever picks the right players wins. And you got Derrick Henry, you got Josh Allen, you got all these great plays that everybody wants to get. And you kind of had to choose between one or two of them. And on this one, it's just like, okay, what pile of crap do I want to spend my money on?
Yeah, for sure. And with this one, I don't know. It feels like it's worse this year, and like the touchdowns are more unpredictable just in some of these showdown slates too. Compared to last year, the pricing just feels more. It's just there's a lot more randomness to it this year. I don't know why. I don't know if you feel that same way, Bo, or not.
I mean, it really it's going to keep changing as we go along. But yeah, unpredictable touchdowns, fullback touchdowns, backup tight end touchdowns have been at all-time high this year. So we'll see if it keeps up. But yeah, you're right. It's been kind of random, and then other slates like they've been great games. So you can expect unexpected when the games are so close all the time. We've had a really good string of primetime games that have come down to the wire, and so. It's just kind of sit back and enjoy the ride. Once you hit lock, it's out of your hands. You just got to hope and pray that you got the right guys in there. I like this Seattle-New Orleans game a lot more than the San Francisco-Indy game. Give me Marcus Callaway. I think he's going to have a monster game.
Do you want him in like the captain spot?
That's what I'm going to do. That's up to you guys if you like him as much as me, but for some reason, I just love his upside. I love his athletic ability. The Seattle defense is banged up. They're not overly athletic. We're gonna see just Winston good and bad. I think in this game, he's gonna have some ups and downs. Within a microcosm of his entire career is gonna be within this game. So I'm actually not opposed to playing Jameis because of his upside here.
Yeah. That's one thing we kind of talked about on the show too is, if you got that wide receiver, that tight end in the captain spot, try to pair the quarterback with them too, because if Callaway's doing good, Jameis is probably doing all right as well. And then if you have a lineup like this,
then you can
decide
if you want to throw up and put Tyler Lockett in there as an absolute prayer, but it's been rough out there on these streets of liking Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. How reasonable is it to get a DK Metcalf in there, or are you not going to be able to have enough cash to fill the rest of your lineup?
You'll have enough to put him in there, but after him, you won't be able to get to Kamara. You won't be able to get to any mid-range price. You're going to have to make a choice, but if you go with the Callaway Winston, with one of them in the captain spots, you're going to need to choose between DK and Kamara.
How popular do you think Kamara is in the captain spot for this game? It feels like he's just obviously the best player on this slate, but
right.
And he should terrorize the Seattle Seahawks defense, but like that price tag in the captain spot is crazy. He's obviously the most expensive player by a little bit of a margin in this game for sure, though.
He'll be much chalkier as a flex play. So I think if I play him and I'm not fading him, which is an option in a larger tournament, I'll put him in the captain spot and just piece it together around him because, as you know, he could go for 40 plus, and in the captain spot, that's 60 plus. And you're sitting really pretty if he goes off. Usually, if you get a guy who's 60% rostered in flex, he's going to be around 25% in the captain spot. And that's still, it's pretty high, but it's not too high. It's saying, okay, I'm going to lose. If he doesn't do well, I'm going to lose anyway. And if he does well, he's going to do really well. So you only eat the chalk on a really obvious slate. This one's not overly obvious where you have shiny things around him. So I'll have a good amount of Kamara captain spots just because his upside says that he could be the key to winning the whole thing if you pick the right pieces around him.
I'm just looking at a couple. What do you think of like Traquan Smith at $4,800 in this matchup? He's coming back. He's had an extended absence. I don't know exactly how many snaps he's going to get.
No, he sucks at football. I'm not playing him.
Mm-hmm. The only reason I bring him up though is his matchup's going to be very good because it's either Sidney Jones coming off a concussion or Trey Brown, a rookie cornerback, in his second game too. So that's the only reason I bring that one up. But he's also
Traquan covers himself. It won't matter.
Yeah, he's one of those people everybody's just going to kind of waiting to break out and never does. Are you looking at the Saints defense at all?
Many chances too. What's that?
Are you looking at the Saints defense at all? They're at $5,800. Feels a little bit rich in this one though.
Oh yeah, they're teasing you. They want you to, but yeah, I mean, you can if you get. I would say if you get down to your last flex spot and you only have that much or a little bit more, then you kind of are forced to play them in a narrative, especially if you have Kamara. Stacking him with the Saints defense is a good idea. But if you think this game could shoot out, which it very well could, this is it's one thing where you don't want to overpay on a defense just to fit them in. I'd rather pay it less for a kicker who might take advantage of drive stalling.
Let's see. And I know we talked about the running backs earlier. Rashad Penny's $2,600. Would you guys take a chance on him like in the GPP at all?
Hell yeah. Especially if he's active and Alex Collins he's a game time decision on Monday night. I'm not expecting much at all out of Collins. And he's at a higher price anyway. So I would love to roll Penny out there in a GPP because he's got big play potential when he's on the field. And that's the beauty of DFS. I don't need him to play next week.
And then I'm just going to flip that question around for both of you too. So if Alex Collins ends up being out, Rashad Penny probably looking a little bit chalkier at that point. Would you pivot to DJ Dallas all in GPPs?
I'd be looking to see the word is Gerald Everett going to play then if Collins is out and Penny's chalky. I'd be looking to see if Everett. I know he's missed the last 2-3 games or whatever, but I think he's off the COVID list. I think he's going to play.
Week, but
he played last week.
Yeah, he played last week.
He
but
came
he only played
1 yard short of a touchdown.
Jesus, missed that.
He only played like 48% of snaps, so I don't know if it was a conditioning thing or just coming back off the COVID list. Probably. The only thing about him is before that he's been getting a lot of snaps, but he's not getting a lot of targets. He's just
Seattle doesn't target the tight end.
Yeah, unless it's like
down
near the red zone. But
yeah, I mean,
only because like I said, if you're gonna. Yeah, like if you're going to go with Kamara and you're not like going to go with the DK, it seems listening to you guys that might be the way to go because there doesn't seem to be as many tantalizing options. I think if I go with DK there, as I don't really want to keep chasing Seattle options there, so I think I'd want to go with a heavier option in New Orleans with Kamara after listening to what you guys are saying, and then trying to patch play some Seattle options like a Gerald Everett for cheap or a Rashad Penny listening to you guys.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let's see where I was at. I'm just going to throw a name out there, and this one's just going to be this one's completely based on narrative. Jawan Johnson at $2,200. The only thing with him is he only play like the Saints have to be down for him to play because the games they've been trailing, that's when he plays a ton. Otherwise, he doesn't play like at all. It's like 12 snaps a game otherwise. So
yeah, it's a dart throw. It's a tight end dart throw, if you want to call him that. Him and little Jordan Humphrey are both really big, tall wide receiver, tight end hybrid types. The pricing's right if you want to play that narrative. I just don't know. I don't think Seattle's that good. So I don't know that Seattle's going to get a lead in this game, especially with Geno Smith there. It's going to be a Saints kind of sit on the ball type game, especially in the second half. So, I mean, I'd probably pick Kamara over DK in this case and go onslaught
and run it back with Penny or somebody like that, where, I mean, just like mopping up with whatever you can find.
So if we go with Kamara and Penny, we have $9,900, just under $5,000 per player left. So we could go to that Gerald Everett real quick. We'd have $5,500 then, but you're looking at DJ Dallas, Traquan Smith, the kicker's kind of there. If we play somebody a little bit cheaper than Gerald Everett, you could get up to that Saints defense if you want to kind of play that onslaught as well.
Yeah, I like that.
You want to get up to the Saints defense and then take Everett out?
Yeah, unless Jim has an objection.
No, again, like I like to listen to people that are better than me at respected things. And you are better than me. Both of you are better than me at DFS building. So I have no problems listening and learning a little bit more.
So we have $4,100 left. You're looking at the kicker range. You got Jason Myers. You got Will Lutz, I assume, is going to be the kicker. He's activated off IR, but Brian Johnson's still on the team. I don't believe he's been cut yet. But I don't know if I really trust the New Orleans kicking situation since Lutz come back from that core muscle surgery. Would you roll with Jason Myers at all?
I would. It fits the narrative. He's a good kicker. He's accurate. Where it's in Seattle, so it's kind of iffy what the weather's going to look like. It'll be wet probably, but Myers has been kicking in that for years. He's been great for years. I wouldn't have any problem with playing Myers, especially at that price. He's priced down from where he should be. And that's a great value that fits what we have going here with the Penny coming back from the injury at a great price. Whether he's chalky or not, that's a great price, especially when we're going with Kamara, Callaway, Winston, looking to bank on the Saints scoring touchdowns with those guys.
And I think even if the Saints kind of get out to a little bit of lead, Seattle's one of those teams that they want to run the ball no matter what.
Yeah, and they're not gonna be able to stop Kamara down the stretch because they don't have a backup running back worth anything. So it's gonna be more and more and more Kamara. The more the Saints dominate this game, the more you're gonna see 41 get the ball.
For sure. So that's pretty much it for the single game slates. We'll get pretty much get out of here after this, but I'll let you guys make your bold predictions for the week and then we'll go from there.
I say that the Tennessee Titans are going to cover the spread against the Chiefs, and they have a pretty good shot of winning that one too because the Chiefs defense is atrocious. And we saw by them beating what I think is the best team in football in Buffalo, that the Titans are a force when they can still run Derrick Henry in any game script and take over. And I think that it's going to be a lot of catch up, and it's going to be a lot of hero ball from Patrick Mahomes, which will be great for fantasy, but might not be good for the Chiefs winning the game.
Well, we're staying in that game because my bold prediction is Darrell Williams is going to outscore Derrick Henry for fantasy purposes this week.
It's pretty spicy. I can't remember. Do you know if Chris Jones is playing in this game or not?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure. I have to double check that. Really, I'd have to look.
So
just 1 second.
I believe he practiced limited fashion all week too. It looks like Tre'Davious Ward's going to be back too, but it's like every time he looks like he's going to be back, he's just not. So if they have him, that's a lot better for covering AJ Brown, though. He's obviously their best corner at this point in time.
Let's see. Maybe. Best thing I can get is a maybe.
And
I can tell you at 11 o'clock tomorrow, or maybe 10:30 when you tweet that out, Craig, and then I retweet it.
You know what? I just remembered. So I just remembered too, there was another injury that popped up today that I didn't have on the sheet, and it was Darren Waller's questionable for tomorrow. Now he's got like a knee and an ankle issue going on. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. If he doesn't play, Foster Moreau might look pretty good in DFS. That's for sure.
I think he does either way. I think
you mean Hunter Renfrow.
That too. But Renfro's still
not really targeted in the red zone very often. He's more of your move the chains third, and Renfro is his nickname. Foster Moreau as a goal line option is sneaky, especially down at the min price for tight ends. I actually already even before I knew Waller was banged up, had a couple Foster Moreau slip-ins there as a cheap flex play, because I think the Raiders are going to score on Philly, and Philly doesn't cover the slot anyway. They can't cover the slot. Their linebackers are so bad. And they almost always get stuck in the wrong personnel when it comes to 3 wide sets. That's why Tyreek Hill lit them up, because they had Tyreek Hill covered by outside linebackers half the game. That's how poorly coached the Eagles are. So as bad as Gruden was for the Raiders, now that he's gone, they kind of have some clarity there where if Waller's out, I don't think they fall off too much, because they still run the same system regardless.
Yeah, so I got one that's sticking out to me right now, and it's just Dallas Goedert finishes outside the top 12 tight ends this week. I'm not buying, and I know he's supposed to get all his targets.
That would hurt me.
I know he's supposed to get all these targets and stuff because Zach Ertz is gone, but he's been sick this week. They might limit his snaps. Obviously, he was on the COVID list before that as well. Oddly enough, that's weird that you were on the COVID list and you kind of come back off, and then now you're sick with a non-COVID thing too. So they might limit him a little bit. I think this could actually be a sneaky good game for Quez Watkins. I think he catches a little pass at least in this. So those corners for the Raiders, not very good outside of Casey Hayward, and Casey Hayward's actually been following the top wide receiver around quite a bit. So Devonta Smith not looking quite as nice this week. Obviously, Quez Watkins has decent chemistry with Jalen Hurts. Rager and him pretty much have no chemistry at this point. Rager can't separate to save his life either. So
he can't catch either.
No.
He has no ball skills, can't catch, and can't get separation. That's not a good combination.
He makes the crazy one-handed catch every once in a while, usually in practice though.
Yeah. In the preseason, Jalen Hurts isn't accurate to begin with, so I'm with you on the Quez, and I'm going to disagree with Goddard just because I really, really hope he does really well here. But you're right about Hayward. Hayward's pretty much just a red light. You don't want to go there because you can hit the Raiders all over the field except for wherever Hayward is. You don't want to go there. He's locked down corner. He didn't get enough credit when he was in Los Angeles with the Chargers. He's good, guys. He's good. Don't target Casey Hayward. He will make a fool of you.
And I can't remember if he shadowed as much when he was with the Chargers, but this Gus Bradley defense.
He didn't have to.
Well, the Seattle defense in general, this Seattle defense scheme that it all comes from. Typically, those corners, they don't shadow. So, seeing it this year with the Raiders, it's just is weird when you think about it, because you look at all the other systems that run that Seattle type of defense across the NFL, and nobody shadows. Well, I guess Trayvon Diggs is kind of starting to do it a little bit here and there, but it's still very rarely. But I think it's a great matchup.
The Cowboys are running more man-to-man this year in cover 1 than we expected, because Dan Quinn, he's a cover 3 coordinator. Well, he had a come to God, come to Jesus moment and decided to run mixed defense because he's listening to his players now and asking them what they'd like to run for the game plan. So it is game plan dependent in Dallas and in Las Vegas, where they're actually trusting the players to say, hey, do I have this guy or do I not have this guy? And so if they feel like they have a personnel disadvantage, then you'll have them run a lot of zone. But if they have an advantage like this week, you might see them run more man-to-man and shadow coverage. Casey Hayward against Devonta Smith, I am so far off Devonta Smith, who I absolutely adore this year in most matchups. This is dead money. I faded Mike Williams correctly against Casey Hayward earlier in the season. And if you think Mike Williams had a bad game against Casey Hayward, just wait till Devonta Smith gets lined up against him. It's going to be ugly. That's why I like Goddard so much. But I hope he feels better tomorrow. I'm really hopeful that you're wrong about him.
Yeah. Well, at least on the bright side, there's nothing behind him at tight end. As much as I like Jack Stoll because his dad liked my Twitter post about undrafted free agents that could actually make an NFL roster and the team they signed with, which I was right about that one. He gets a special place for that, but he's just he's a Ross Dwelly type. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, I think that the Eagles want to run 11 and 21 personnel so bad. They hated running the 12 personnel because they still had Ertz there. They were just waiting for the moment where a team was going to make that deal and get it done, so they can go back to the 11 and 21 personnel that they really, really badly want to run with 2 backs and then 3 wide. They were painfully stagnant with the 12 personnel.
But I think that's all we got. So I'll close out with you first, Jim. Just let the people know where they can find you once again. Anything else special you're working on? How many of these touchdown dances you're going to hit on this weekend?
Oh man!
All of them.
Well, I'm hoping to get win number 10. That you can find me at Gold Jacket QBs. You can see it right there. DMs are always open. You can always hit me up if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. Sundays I go touchdown dancing, usually tweeting out my first one at 11, and then for the 1 o'clock games, and then I'll put one out at about 2:30, 3 o'clock for the 4 o'clock games. And then if we're going really well, we'll put one out for the Sunday games. And then if we're doing really, really well, we'll hit another one for the Monday games. Or we'll just go into hiding if we don't hit the first 2. Yeah, just like I said, just follow me up on Twitter at Gold Jacket QBs. And like I said, Sundays are when I'm really dancing. Tuesdays is when I'm live streaming. So yeah, make sure you check that out.
Yeah. So TNFF code on Monkey Knife Fight, $50 up to $50 deposit match. Follow Jim on Twitter. You're going to win some money. You're going to make yourself look pretty smart. And then we'll let you close off as well, Bo, where people can find you, what you're working on.
You can find me on Twitter, Bo_McBigTime. I'm the DFS staff writer for ballblastfootball.com as well as NimblewNumbers.com. Pretty much just live on Twitter, just spouting DFS knowledge for Showdown slate, main slate. And then in the off season, I do dynasty work. So get with me on dynasty and Devi work in the off season, but during the season, it's all DFS all the time. My DMs are also open for food picks, for advice. If you want to ask me advice, I'm pretty bad at giving start sit stuff. So it's been a lot of fun. So I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, definitely enjoy having you on. And I know when I told Julian you were coming on, he wants you to be back on at some point when he's going to be here as well. So we'll definitely reach out to you again, especially for these Showdown slates, since that's kind of your bread and butter. That's what really got me into DFS to start with as well. So it's definitely a unique gameplay, and I think there's a lot of advantages you can have to it, and it's always interesting. You can try so many different things. And I know you have another show that you got to get off to as well with Mr. Scott. And just let the people know where they can find you over there as well.
So yeah, we're going to start here in a few minutes with the Chalk Block show. Scott's off tonight, but I'm going to have a guest or two on for doing the DFS main slate walk. We're doing the slate walk, take a little turn on the slate walk. So check that out. We usually start at 10 Eastern. I'll probably get a little bit later start tonight. No big deal. I'm on the West Coast, so I don't care. If we get us going, it'll be live on Twitter and YouTube. Check it out. We'll win you some money on the DFS main slate tomorrow.
Yep. And that's one that I do like checking out myself too. Enjoy both you guys. Definitely appreciate you for coming on once again. For myself, you can find me at Coach Craig Sport on Twitter, Coach Craig Sports on YouTube. I'm dying right now because it's my hell season. I'm putting out 12 videos a week now. So I got daily NBA DFS videos, as well as the fantasy football videos. So if you have any questions about those start sits that Bo was referring to, you can also check out my video from today for the starts and sits for every single matchup. If you have any questions, leave them down there as well. But for all three of us, we hope each and every one of you watching has a great rest of your night. And it was definitely a blast having the two of you on tonight.
Likewise.
Thank you, buddy. Really appreciate it.